It's that time once again where we're visited by our friend John Thiessen from over at UN Luggage, and he's brought a few more things in addition to his bags. There's a very special event coming up at UN Luggage this week. John's here to tell us a little bit more about it. Welcome back.
Thank you. Morning.
I don't think you can pack that much stuff into that. I'm guessing that is not luggage in front of us.
This is not luggage. No. We at UN Luggage, we have traditionally had a big counter space, and over the years we've tried to establish that as sort of almost like a secondary business, and it's pens and fine writing instruments. And sort of that category of pen that doesn't seem to really fit with travel or luggage or backpacks and stuff really helped us get us through COVID. And so that part of the business didn't slow down when nobody was traveling, nobody was buying bags. And so it became more and more important to us. And now we sort of have established ourselves as the place to go for fine writing instruments in Winnipeg.
So both fine writing instruments and bags lend themselves to a whole other experience than just if you were to take a drive down the street or if you were to write with just your regular ballpoint pen or something like that. What's so special about the pens that you've brought in for us today?
Well, so our annual pen event is this Thursday, and it's going to be from 5 to 9. And traditionally, we bring in pens that are higher end pens than we would typically have in our store. But people who do come to our store and see pens often ask, like, what's your most expensive pen? So I thought I'd bring along our most expensive pen. And this is it's a fountain pen by an Italian company called Visconti. And, this is a $1,900 fountain pen. So, very high end, very expensive, very exclusive. There's not many of them. And it's, people who collect fountain pens sort of get into this sort of collectible.
What is it like? I'm assuming that you have written with a fountain pen, maybe not that specific one, but one in the similar sort of upper echelon of pens. What is that experience like for someone who has never written with a high-end pen?
Well, I think that I'm not a good example because I think you actually have to get to know pens before you can actually be picky enough to sort of pick out the difference between, an 18-karat gold nib and a steel nib and, the flex nib. And there's all these people who are into fountain pens really get into it. I can't tell the difference as much, but it'd be like somebody playing, tennis and knowing the tension of a string. If you don't do it regularly, you probably wouldn't pick up on those nuances, but people who do use fountain pens get into it. So I'm more typical of a pen like this, and this is my favorite pen of all time, and this is a pen by a German company called Lamy. This is the Lamy 2000. So this is a pen that's a rollerball pen, so much easier to use than a fountain pen, puts down almost as much ink, so it flows like a fountain pen. But this one is just like, I think, German perfection. It's been in production since 1966, and they sort of nailed it with this one. So I'm more of a rollerball guy.
More of a rollerball guy than a fountain. That is one heck of a distinctor that you make between the people who write between these things. What is it about picking up that all-time favorite pen and writing with it? What is that feeling like for you as you are writing down customer orders or maybe signing a receipt or maybe writing in a journal?
I just think it's nice having things that that have long-term sort of value, as in like you don't throw this away. This is not a disposable pen. This is just a piece. It's like a piece of furniture that's almost like a collectible. And so this is almost basically a collectible. So people have these pens who bought them in the 70s, who bought them in the 80s, and they're still using the same pen, and it just becomes part of your. It's like a watch that it's part of your character, I guess. Yeah.
Cool. You mentioned that this is something that you started growing at UN Luggage. This is pen business during the height of the COVID-19 public health lockdowns. What made you want to get into pens in the first place at the store?
Well, we had carried a brand, another German company called the Mont Blanc for years, and we had always carried their leather goods. And so we also started carrying, as customers asked for them, some of their writing instruments, their pens, their pencils, and then found that there were actually more people who were interested in their pens than they were interested in their wallets or their bags. And so didn't even understand that there was a fine writing market. This is 25 years ago. And then sort of started with that one brand. And then as our store sort of developed, came up with more counter space, then added more pen brands. And then during COVID, like I say, you couldn't sell a suitcase, but you could still sell pens. Because that was actually more in demand during that sort of period, and so really focused a lot more on the pen side of things for that period of time.
You touched on the pen night experience that you're having this Thursday. What kind of people do you expect to see at an event like that, and what kind of conversations do people have about their pens that have been a part of their lives, as you were saying, for some decades?
Well, people come in and the pen, we bring in pens just for that night. So people sometimes just like to come and see, really high-end pens that if you're a collector, you might not always have a chance to sort of see in person, try out in person. A gentleman will be flying in from Toronto to sort of have these pens on display, talk about these pens, and he's sort of our sort of Canadian pen guru. And so he's going to be attending that night. So he'll be there from 5 to 9. So people like to have conversations with him and then other pen aficionados. And so people show pens, they, exchange pens and, talk about where they got their pens. And then they get into inks and what kind of inks they use and what kind of, so it's a pen world.
It's just a pen world.
Yeah.
And I imagine you also carry a lot of the things that you need to upkeep your pens as well in the store, thinking like inks and nibs and the like.
Of course, yeah, all kinds of refills. People do sort of change out nibs. They go, have an extra fine, and now they want to, now they're getting more into, the flow of different inks. They want to try a broad nib, and so there are brands that you can change out your nibs and that kind of thing.
As you talk, it occurs to me that the way that you speak in paper, the way that you write on paper is different that when you're writing with a pen than if you are, say, just typing an email or typing a message to someone. What do you notice changes in the way you write as you use different kinds of pens or different kinds of mediums to say the things that you need to say?
Well, I'm probably another bad example. So I do more typing than I do writing. But people who do journal, people who do take business notes, people who are always in meetings writing down notes, I think it is the best way to put down your thoughts quickly. And you do have to, be concise. And so you have to sort of self-edit quickly. I think it actually lends itself to sort of, keeping your brain both creative and quick thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Now, of course, you have to carry those pens around in something, and you've brought a wonderful little shoulder bag here as well from the store. What can you tell us about this bag?
Well, this is a bag by a company called PackSafe, and PackSafe, their whole. I guess I'll tell you two different things. So this is a sling bag, and so a sling bag is a bag that has become very, very popular over the last couple of years. And it's a bag that you wear sort of at your back that sort of goes over it's like a single strap backpack. So people like to have their hands free, keep things out of the way. But then when you need to get at something, it sort of swings to your front so that if you're sitting down on a bus, you're sitting down for a cup of coffee, it's not at your back, it's at your front. And then typically these zippers then would open. So you can open stuff when it's right in front of yourself, sort of like almost like a fanny pack. But, you actually carry it typically as a single strap backpack on your back.
Strikes me as something that's very good for like an urban traveler, someone who's taking the bus around, as you say, someone who needs maybe very few things on a quick jaunt around town, but very easily accessible, as you say, to get around.
Yeah, and so the style of bag, we have tons of them from many different brands. But this one in particular, this PackSafe brand, what they do is make all of these bags lockable. So regardless of how many pockets are on this bag, there's a very simple way to sort of keep all those sliders tucked together so it's like pickpocket proof. So if this is on your back and you're sort of visiting the Eiffel Tower and you're concerned that you're in a crowd, it's very difficult for someone to get their hand into a pocket of your bag if it's a PackSafe bag. And then they go so far as to make sure the straps, people have, probably heard sort of stories of, bags being sort of cut right off their shoulder. There's wire cabling in the strap, so it's very difficult to, get this off of yourself. The strap itself can be removed, and even this, you can, if you remove that safety, undo this little end here and actually lock this bag to something. So this can be removed. If you're on a beach and sunning yourself, you can actually lock this to that chair. So if you fall asleep, no one can walk off with your bag. So it's all about travel security. So this is just a brand that does everything. Everything they do is, always about travel security. And then this style of bag is just a very popular style right now.
Yeah, I'm noticing even as you were locking up the PackSafe bag here from the front that the two zipper heads kind of come together as they are then clipped into that lock.
Yeah.
So the kind of person who is coming in to buy this bag, are you finding that they are more the casual sort of day tripping sort of bus passenger here in the city of Winnipeg, or are they more likely to be thinking about that trip to the Eiffel Tower or somewhere lying on a beach?
Yeah, you know what? I think a lot of our customers come in knowing that they like to have things in their glove compartment because they're used to having a car. They like to have things in their pocket, or and so if you're traveling, you might want somewhere for your sunglasses, you might want something for your wallet, you might want something for your passport, and you don't want to always have that in your pockets. And so it's actually a lot of guys who get converted to having to carry a bag for travel, but then they continue with that habit, when they get back to the city.
It feels like a very unobtrusive bag, and I'm thinking about all of the microphones and camera gear that I bring around here in the city to cover arts events and how I can keep that safe as I'm walking around.
Yeah.
Also really great to store those expensive pens that you have as you're walking around.
Yeah.
For people who are interested in visiting your store for Pen Night, how can they find more information about how to get involved? I'm assuming you don't have to buy a ticket for something like that.
It's open to pen fans, and it's 5 to 9 this Thursday at it's the pen counter is our pen store is at Luggage. It's 175 McDermott Avenue in the Exchange District.
Booyah. Can't wait to see how many people show up and how many pen aficionados or pen gurus, as you say.
There'll be a few.
There'll be a few. Sure. How exciting. John, thank you so much for telling us about it. We'll look forward to Thursday night.
Yeah, thanks very much.